Session, the Honorable Judge Bruce Kyle presiding.
Please be seated. Okay. You got everybody?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. You ready? For the record, both assistant state attorneys are present, both defense counsel and Mr. Sievers. State's ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense is ready?
Your Honor, there's one thing.
Okay.
Your Honor, if you recall, during my opening statement, I made a remark about bankruptcy that drew an objection, and the court issued a cautionary instruction to disregard that. Yesterday, Mr. Curtis Wainwright said they were on the cusp of bankruptcy, which was absolutely congruent with my opening statement. And, Your Honor, I would now request an instruction from the court to disregard that prior objection and instruction.
State.
Mr. Wright said that Mr. Sievers said something about bankruptcy and conceded that there was no evidence of bankruptcy, and the state has no evidence of bankruptcy. There's not going to be any evidence coming from this table that suggests that the Sievers family was bankrupt. So the assertion was absolutely correct. Mr. Wright, in this very next sentence, says, well, that's what Mr. Sievers told them. He had no evidence of any bankruptcy. And it was non-responsive to the question that he was asked.
Well, that doesn't matter. Came out.
It may matter on the record down the road that it wasn't anything the state had asked him.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to give an instruction, but it's fair game and you're across. Anything else either side?
Nothing further from the state.
I'll let everyone know we're going to have to stop just a little bit before noon today.
Okay.
Just so everyone's aware, so you're not surprised. I have an hour-long phone conference that I have to attend, and it can't be rescheduled. And that starts at noon. Should we have him brought out since he was on the stand before he was before the jury went out? You can get him.
He has water already, sir.
Oh, awesome. You're the best, man.
Good to go.
You're saving me from dumping water on myself.
Yeah.
I rarely use that. I should use it.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay. Bring him out. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Oh, I see others have them too. If I had the money, I would. Please be seated. I'll ask our jurors again, did you follow my instructions, not talk about the case among yourselves or with anybody else, or look up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand and let me know. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. Mr. Wright, I'll tell you again that you are still under oath from yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Defense.
Mr. Wright, on February 19th, 2016, you signed an agreement with the State Attorney's Office called Plea Agreement Waiver of Rights. Do you recall signing that?
I do.
Do you recall that pursuant to that agreement, you agreed to testify fully, truthfully, completely, and accurately under oath before the State Attorney of the 20th Judicial Circuit,
Yes.
his assistants or investigators, and Lee County Sheriff's deputies as to all matters related to or arising from his knowledge or involvement in any criminal activity? Do you recall that?
Yes.
Recall agreeing to the recordation of said testimony, either stenographically, electronically, or mechanically at the discretion of said prosecutor, his assistants, or investigators. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the terminology. You're talking about a lie detector test? Is that what you're
We'll
talking
get there.
about?
But do you recall agreeing to have your testimony reduced to writing?
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
You agreed to fully cooperate with said prosecutor, his assistants, or investigators by revealing the names of all individuals who possess information which may be relevant, helpful, or pertinent to said investigation. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you recall that you promised to fully cooperate with said prosecutor, his assistants, and investigators in attempting to locate and recover items of physical evidence or documentary evidence which may be relevant, helpful, or pertinent to said investigation?
Yes.
Do you recall agreeing to submit to polygraph examination or examinations in the form specified by the State Attorney's Office, their assistants, or investigators upon request?
Yes.
Do you recall that failure of the defendant to pass any confirmation polygraph examination or portion thereof shall violate this agreement at the sole discretion of the State Attorney's Office, whereupon the defendant shall be sentenced by the court in accordance with the maximum top range of the sentencing guidelines in addition to any other charge as previously set forth herein? Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you recall that the defendant expressly agrees that upon the failure to pass any polygraph examination or examinations, the result of said examination shall be admissible before the court in any subsequent proceeding, including but not limited to enforcement proceedings for this agreement and or the trial of any crimes dealt with during the said polygraph examination?
Yes.
Do you recall agreeing that failure on the part of the defendant to fulfill each and every term of this condition of the agreement shall subject the defendant to prosecution for any and all criminal offenses for which the prosecutor has knowledge, including but not limited to, and previously mentioned crimes and perjury, and at any time prior to the fulfillment by the defendant of each and every term and condition of this agreement? Do you recall that?
Yes.
So, sir, in exchange for those set of promises, you agreed to 25 years and a second-degree murder charge, correct?
Yes, that's what I was charged with.
Okay. And that was after you gave several interviews to law enforcement, is that correct?
Yes,
And the first time you gave a law enforcement interview was on July 12th of 2015 to Detective David Levitt. Do you recall that?
yes,
And do you recall Mr. Hunter asking you if you were truthful in your statements to Detective Levitt?
yes,
And in fact, you gave several individual statements to Detective Levitt, specifically on the July 12th, 2015 interview at 8:49 a.m. You told Detective Levitt that Teresa said, "I'm doing this because I care about you." Do you recall telling Detective Levitt that, about treating you for your medical conditions?
I think that was probably out of context, but
Do you recall telling Detective Levitt that you have a traumatic brain injury?
yes,
And do you recall telling Detective Levitt that that traumatic brain injury causes issues issues like aggression? Do you recall telling him that?
yeah, when it first happened,
Okay. You then would tell Detective Levitt that you stayed in bed in Missouri all weekend, the weekend of June 28th and June 29th. Do you recall that?
yes,
And you repeated that story on more than one occasion, correct?
yes,
Those statements were untrue, weren't they?
yes,
Detective Levitt came back almost exactly 2 hours later on July 12, 2015 at 10:48 a.m. He asked you, "Are you the kind of person who is a monster and randomly kills people? Or are you the kind of person who has had a hard life and has their best friend begging them?" Do you recall?
Objection. Calls for character testimony.
You can finish your question.
Do you recall Detective Levitt asking you that question?
Objection. Calls for character testimony.
Overruled.
Do you recall Detective Levitt asking you that question?
yes,
And you denied either.
Objection. Calls for character testimony.
Overruled.
You denied either, didn't you?
yes,
At that time, Detective Levitt, on July 12th, 2015, at or around 10:48, said that Mr. Sievers had him a failing marriage that was about to be booted out, but conveniently, there was a whole lot of life insurance money. You recall him telling you that?
yes,
He also told you that Teresa Sievers was about to be a traveling practice and take her show on the road. Do you recall Detective Levitt telling you that?
I think so,
And on that day, you said nothing like that happened, correct?
I'm not sure what that is
You said you
referring to.
never left Missouri for the second time in the July 12th, 2015, 10:48 interview, correct?
Yes,
And Detective Levitt, on that day, said, "Would you be willing to take a lie detector test?" Do you recall that?
no, but it doesn't surprise me,
And to this date, you have never taken a polygraph about this case, have you?
I offered to,
That wasn't what I asked. You have never taken a polygraph in this case, have you?
wasn't asked to,
That wasn't what I
No.
asked.
Objection to, first of all, counsel's raising his voice. Second of all, it's argumentative.
I'll sustain the objection and instruct the witness you have to answer the questions that are asked, sir. The state will have their opportunity to ask you further questions later.
no, I haven't,
Detective Levitt would then come back and he would talk to you on August 27, 2015 at approximately 6:46 p.m. Do you remember that interview?
yes, that was when I was arrested,
Detective Levitt told you, "I don't think it's fair that Mark Sievers is not in jail after he hired you," and you denied that he hired you, didn't you?
yes,
Detective Levitt said that Teresa, she was going to take the kids away from him, and that was his world. Plus a bonus, there was going to be money. And you denied having any knowledge about that, didn't you?
yes,
Detective Levin was talking to you about the crime scene. Do you remember that?
Yes.
He suggested that it was going to look like a burglary. Do you recall that?
Not specifically.
Do you
but-
recall when he said, the next time you're going to simulate something like that, you may want to show that shit was stolen? Do you recall Detective Levitt telling you that?
No.
And on August 27th, 2015, you denied any involvement, correct?
Yes.
Detective Levitt would later go on to say, yeah, I may have killed her, but I was asked to do it, and it was $10,000, so it is what it is, man. And he was referring to Jimmy Ray Rogers when he was talking about that, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
That was the first time that we heard about the $10,000 that you offered to pay Jimmy Ray Rogers, wasn't it? It was on August 27th.
Objection as to the form of the question. The witness doesn't know what we heard.
Sustained.
Was that the first time you ever remember hearing from law enforcement about $10,000?
Yes, from law enforcement.
And you didn't send any text to Jimmy about $10,000, did you?
I spoke to him in person.
So if you spoke to him in person, there was no way that law enforcement was privy to any of those conversations, were they?
Not for me.
In fact, when Detective Levitt told you that the Sievers were having marital problems, you told them, you're telling me that they had marital problems? I was close, and I've never heard that. He never talked to me about that. Do you recall saying that to Detective Levitt?
Yes.
You later said, I don't believe that I've ever had a conversation with Jimmy about Teresa. Do you recall saying that on August 27, 2015?
Not specifically.
Do you deny that you did say that?
I'm not sure that I said that, but should say I don't remember specifically saying that.
Do you recall in your agreement with the state, they said failure of memory is not an excuse to breach the contract? Do you recall that?
Yes.
So you're not allowed to forget, are you?
That's,
Who determines whether your memory is sufficient or not?
I don't know.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. If you forget everything, you think the state's going to still offer you that deal?
My deal was to,
Objection calls for speculation on the part of the witness.
Overruled.
If you forget all of your testimony in this, do you think the state is still going to offer you the deal of a second-degree murder and 25 years?
no.
On August 27th, 2015, you told Detective Levitt Mark never once said anything to me about even that they were having problems, didn't you?
Yes.
And Detective Levitt, he asked you, first, well, let me ask you this. Was Teresa about to do something that you needed to protect your family for? Is that why you killed her? Do you recall Detective Levitt asking you that?
I'm sorry, could you re-ask?
Detective Levitt on August 27, 2015 said, well, let me ask you this. Was Teresa about to do something that you needed to protect your family for? Is that why you killed her? Do you recall saying that? Or him saying that?
Not specifically.
And then later, Detective Levitt said, is that why you helped Mark kill her? You told Detective Levitt, I did not help Mark kill his wife. Do you recall telling Detective Levitt that?
Yes.
And once again, did you help anyone kill Teresa? And your answer was no. Do you recall that?
Yes.
At that point, we had an interesting shift in the conversation. Do you recall what happened in the conversation after that?
No.
For the next 3 to 5 minutes, Detective Levitt asked you about your sexual preference, didn't he?
Yes,
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Detective Levitt wanted to know if you had a sexual relationship with Mark Sievers, didn't you?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Judge, may we approach?
Sure. Ready?
You were booked into the Lee County Jail on October 15, 2015, is that correct?
yes,
You gave an initial proffer agreement on January 16th, 2016. Do you recall that?
yes,
When you gave that proffer agreement was video recorded, correct?
yes,
And you had some discovery materials in front of you when you gave that statement, didn't you?
no,
No? Okay, so if I understand you, you did not have any discovery materials in front of you when you gave your statement on January 6, 2016. Is that your testimony here today?
yeah, not that,
Want to go through that statement? So, you said that there was a cheating spouse that you spoke about, started 6 months prior to the crime. Do you recall that?
well, that was something that Mark asked me about.
You said, I guess it really started probably about 6 months before the crime. Mark had asked me, he brought it up in a way that was like if somebody knew they were having a problem with a cheating spouse.
Objection, this is improper.
Yeah.
Sustained.
Do you recall talking about a cheating spouse?
I recall Mark asking me about a situation.
Okay. Then as we go through your statement, you spoke about sending secure communications because of HIPAA. Do you recall that?
Yeah, we had a conversation about that.
Okay. And specifically, you said that because of HIPAA, you needed to communicate securely, send passwords for servers, those kind of things. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, it would have been one password.
You said that you had previously sent information so nobody would have complete access to everything. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, but it wasn't concerning Mark.
I'm sorry. Was there a question in front of you?
There was.
Objection. Argument.
Sustained.
You said that you reviewed a copy of police reports and your own statement in that, didn't you? You said, I guess, just that summary. Do you recall that?
That's all I had.
Okay, so you were able to review discovery documents to prepare for your January 6, 2016 interview, correct?
Yes.
And again, you said that Teresa was having an affair. Do you recall that? Do you recall saying that?
I recall saying that's what Mark told me.
And
I
you
wouldn't
said
know that.
Mark was concerned that she would take the kids if she left. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Where is she going to go?
Don't know. He said out of state, but specifically, I don't know.
Okay. So someone was going to go out of state with children. You would agree with me that pursuant to 6113.001 Florida statute, they would have to file a petition for relocation here within the state of Florida?
Objection.
I don't know.
Also, legal conclusion, counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Were you aware of an action for dissolution of marriage had started yet?
No.
You're aware if any attorneys have been contacted yet?
No.
You said that Mark talked about Teresa getting her concealed weapons permit, but he delayed it so that you could carry out this murder. Do you recall saying that?
That was only part of a sentence, but yes.
And you also testified the alarm would not be armed, the house alarm, when you went to that home. Is that correct?
Yeah, he told me it would be off when we got there that night.
You said that Jimmy and Mark may have spoken at the wedding, but they weren't actually in communication about any of the events of the murder. Is that correct?
No.
No, that they didn't speak, or no, that's incorrect?
No, they had conversation.
At the wedding,
Yes.
but after that, they never spoke again.
No.
In that statement, you said, we didn't talk about the exact amounts of life insurance money. Do you recall saying that?
Yeah, I don't know how much life insurance he had.
Okay. You said that the back of the home was the best way to gain entrance into the house. Is that correct?
That was Mark's suggestion.
Okay. And when you talked about the actual murder, you said that Jimmy committed the murder while you stayed outside. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, in the beginning.
Okay. And while you were giving that statement, your attorney was present?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter and Ms. Ross were present?
Yes.
Detectives Levin and Downs were present, is that correct?
Yes.
You said at that time, hold on. You said at that time, the murder was brought about really because of the kids, because of their safety. Do you recall saying that?
That's what Mark said.
And do you recall in the same breath saying, he didn't bring it up to me, that it wasn't about money? Do you recall saying that in this statement?
Yes.
Okay. So at that point in the statement, you had said that this murder was not about money, correct? It was about children.
That was my understanding.
You also said that you didn't really have plans of getting any of it, correct? Do you recall saying that?
That was part of a sentence, but yeah.
Okay. But you said, I didn't have plans of getting any proceeds of life insurance money, correct?
Yes, in the beginning.
Okay. You said when she was being killed, I wasn't at the house. Do you recall saying that?
Again, in the same period.
You said that Mark sent regular tech support money. Do you recall saying that?
I don't remember saying regular, but
Okay. And you said that Mark paid for the second trip down for the funeral. Do you recall that? And paid you $300 to ensure to install security cameras in his home. Do you recall that?
he paid for the first trip. The second trip, I got paid for installing the cameras, which covered the cost.
And you said Mark and I never talked about any amounts of money. Do you recall saying that?
Said specific amounts of money.
At that point, you were informed that the state attorney's office and detectives didn't believe you. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, more or less.
Objection. To the form of the question,
You can rephrase.
At that point, you took a break to speak with your attorney, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The purpose of speaking with your attorney is to get your narrative back on track. Is that correct?
No.
You later came back and you said everything about your story was accurate until we parked at the house. Do you recall saying that?
We never parked at the house.
Well, I mean, parked at the apartment complex by the house.
Yes.
Okay. So everything about your story was accurate until you got to the apartment complex. So what you said about the money was accurate, correct? That there was no money.
I never said there was no money.
Well, that you and Mark never talked about money, that you never expected to be paid. That was accurate. Is that correct?
You're taking that out of context. I did say that there was money to be paid. Just an exact amount, I never said.
Okay, so what you're saying now is there was never an exact amount. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then why did you say you didn't expect to get paid?
In that context, we're talking about cash. I didn't know how Mark was going to compensate me.
So next you said, you talked about the attack itself. You said, I went in after she had been attacked and I grabbed the other hammer. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
You said in that statement that you were wearing just your clothes. You weren't wearing a jumpsuit. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
And you said that you struck Teresa from behind. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
Then you later changed and said, okay, no, I now remember I was in fact wearing a jumpsuit. Do you recall saying that?
That was after I corrected the lies.
You said Jimmy took full swings talking about the hammer. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You said it sounded like someone smashing a pumpkin.
Yeah, they asked me what the sound was like. Yes.
You said you dropped your hammer immediately. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And you said that both two hammers used in the attack were claw hammers.
Yes.
And just for purposes of the record, is there a difference between a claw hammer and a ball peen hammer?
Yes.
What's the difference between a claw hammer and a ball peen hammer?
Technically, I'm not sure what the names are. A claw hammer is something a carpenter would use.
And a claw hammer has an addendum right there at the back that you use to pull out nails, like a lever, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Whereas a ball peen hammer, the back of the hammer is round, is that correct?
One side of it.
One side of it's round, and a lot of times it's used by machinists for metalwork, correct?
Yeah, I would consider it a mechanic hammer.
You said you didn't have a plan to kill Teresa, correct?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I think what you're referring to is an exact plan of how it was going to happen.
You said the bleach bucket and the sink were not used. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
And you said on the way out, you just opened the suitcase, you tossed some clothes after the murder, and then you changed out of your jumpsuits through the side door. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, in the yard.
Okay. And then you said that the bloody suits went into Jimmy's bag. Is that correct?
I don't remember saying bloody suits, but I said the suits went in the bag, which is true. They may have had blood on them.
You also said that Jimmy never brought his cooler into the house, correct? Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
So it was, in this statement, it was only the backpack that was brought into the house, correct?
Yes.
And you later said, I assumed that Jimmy threw away the clothes he was wearing, but it sounds like he brought those back with him. Do you recall saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. So why at that time did you assume he threw them out, and then later you changed your story?
Because we stopped at the rest stop for the intention of throwing everything away. All of my stuff was thrown away. He used the trash can. I assumed that that's what he threw away. He was supposed to.
You said Jimmy hoped to get $10,000 from valuables from the house. Do you recall saying that?
Yeah.
And again, you said, this was about the kids for me, not the money. Recall saying that?
Well, this was marked. Yeah. I agreed to do this because my friend asked me to. It wasn't specifically for the girls, for my own motive. But
Let's move ahead to February 19th of 2016. That time, that was the same day that you signed the proffer agreement that we spoke about, correct?
I'm sorry, which one are you referring to? What date?
February 19th, plea agreement, waiver of rights form.
Yes.
The one where you agreed to submit to a polygraph. The one where you agreed to testify truthfully.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Do you recall voicing some concerns to Mr. Hunter about your wife before the interview began?
It was about my family in general, not just my wife.
you had some concerns that Miss Wright may be charged in some capacity for this. Is that correct?
I had concerns that she was going to get,
Yes.
I don't know about a charge, but yeah.
And you recall that Mr. Hunter said that Angie is a blip that will go away. Do you recall Mr. Hunter saying that?
Yeah, as long,
Actually, relevance.
Judge,
Overruled.
that made you feel better about giving your testimony, protecting your wife, correct?
not about giving my testimony, but
You love your wife, correct?
I do.
You want to protect your wife, correct?
I do.
And so, if you can make sure that she is insulated from prosecution, that's something you want, isn't it?
Yeah, when she's innocent.
Even when she's not.
Hey,
So, you shaking your head no?
I'm saying she was innocent.
So, on the February 19, 2016 plea agreement, you spoke about the barbecue, at the barbecue on the Saturday before your Sunday wedding, having a,
The wedding was on Saturday.
I'm sorry, that would have been a Friday, I apologize.
Yes.
The Friday before the wedding, that you and Mark spoke, and you said that Teresa was having an affair. Do you recall that?
That's what he told me.
Recall that Mr. Sievers said that they were having financial problems and were filing for bankruptcy.
I said he
Recall that.
was considering filing for bankruptcy.
You said Teresa was taking the kids and moving out of state. Do you recall that?
That's what he told me.
And that was when we first heard about the anonymous phones, correct? Correct?
You're talking about on February 19th?
Yep.
No, those were talked about in the first proffer as well.
So, on that, you said that we knew we were going to need to be able to talk about that. We brought up having phones like anonymous phones, which is one of the ways that we had talked about being able to communicate and things in the past. Do you recall saying that?
Yeah, 3 years prior.
Okay. You recall saying the words "in the past."
I'm not sure what my exact words were. 3 years is the past.
And while we're talking about the anonymous phones, your wife Angie also had a prepaid phone, didn't she?
Objections beyond the scope of direct.
Sustained.
You said Bonita Beach, it's a beach you're familiar with, is that correct?
Yes.
So you had been to the Sievers residence enough time to be able to navigate your way from their home to the beach without any type of assistance, correct?
No, not necessarily.
In fact, you said that you had a place that Mark showed you where you could park for free at the beach, correct?
Yes.
When they talked about how the actual murder happened, you said you hit her a couple times but stopped because you have a shoulder problem, correct?
Yeah, but I don't think that's why I said I stopped.
you know, I have shoulder problems, so I guess I wasn't hitting her hard enough. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
You talked about an affair with some doctor, bankruptcy, selling the clinic. Do you recall saying that?
Those were things that Mark talked to me about.
But Mark didn't actually say that Teresa was leaving him, did he?
Yes, he did. Oh, I'm sorry, not the night. Are we still talking about the night before the wedding?
Talking about in your February 15th statement.
February 19th?
And again, you said you never talked about any specific amounts of life insurance payments, correct? Do you recall saying that?
Yes, about the life insurance, yes.
And at that time, you were under oath, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so when you say you never spoke about any specific amounts, that means you never spoke about a $100,000 amount, correct?
that's not life
You never spoke about a
insurance.
$150,000 amount, correct?
You're talking about two different things. I don't know how much life insurance he had. I still don't. Well, I do now because I've seen it, but he never told me.
You said this wasn't a money thing, correct?
Yes,
Told the investigators that Mark spoke with your friend Jerry Lubinsky about some coin values. Do you recall saying that?
yes,
In fact, that never happened, did it?
it did.
It did?
Yes. I was standing there. I know it did.
And you said Mark wanted you to use a gun, is that correct?
That was his suggestion.
Okay. So, you knew that Mark had guns in his home, correct?
Yes,
So, would you say you and Mark, you plotted, you planned this?
I'm sorry, define this.
You looked at Google Earth images, I mean, you had a plan, you had this thing all worked out, didn't you?
Most of it.
Okay, so he also said that you didn't feel comfortable using a gun because you're a 5-time convicted felon, correct?
I don't feel comfortable using a gun at all, but I wasn't going to carry one across, in my car because I am a felon.
But if you knew that there was a gun in Mark's house, you could have easily gotten code for the safe or could have tucked the key away for you, right?
Could have.
That didn't happen, did it?
Just said the reason I didn't use a gun wasn't because I didn't have access to one.
Likewise, you said you're pretty familiar with this case by now. You know that there was nearly $50,000 in that home, is that correct?
I found that out later, but no, I didn't know that.
So there was $50,000 when you went down to commit the murder, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't know.
Sustained.
Mr. Sievers never said, I have all this money and I'm going to set it aside for you and you just take it, correct?
Correct.
And then after the murder, you came down again for the funeral, is that correct?
Yes.
Having the mission completed, right?
Yes.
Did you ever get $50,000 in cash at that time?
No, our agreement was it would be paid after he got his life insurance payment.
Talked a little bit about the door code, you said you recognized what the business door code was immediately. It was the Fibonacci sequence. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first 4 numbers of it, yes.
Okay. How do you know what the Fibonacci sequence is?
I guess it's a math nerd thing, but I specifically remember it from the Da Vinci Code. Which is,
Okay. So it's one of those things, it's what we call a mnemonic device. It's easy to remember. Is that correct?
yes,
Likewise, the garage door code, what was that code again?
1313.
That was the mailing address for the Munsters from the TV sitcom, correct?
I didn't know that, but that's what Mark told me it was.
Okay. You're familiar generally with the Munsters?
I remember it.
Okay. But is that something that would help you remember a sequence of numbers?
Yeah, because of the way Mark told me what it was.
Okay. And in fact, you had gone to Mark's house on several prior occasions, is that correct?
Yes,
You had been to Mark's house, in fact, within the 6 months leading up to the murder, correct?
yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
So, during the 6 months leading up to the murder, that would have been, according to you, when Teresa was having this affair, correct?
Wasn't according to me, but I don't know how long it had been going on. Mark didn't say.
Okay, but he never asked you to murder Teresa any of those prior times when you came down, correct?
No,
And again, you said Teresa wanted her concealed carry permit for a firearm, but Mark was delaying it. Do you recall that?
I said that it was either that she didn't have her concealed carry or she didn't have a gun. That's what he told me. Whether it's true or not, I don't have any way of knowing that.
Okay. So, in this statement, you said you put on your jumpsuits, you duct tape the ankles, you duct tape the wrists. You recall that?
Yes,
And this happened in June, correct?
yes,
In Florida.
yes.
It was hot outside.
It was 11:30 at night, so it was warm, yes.
And you said Jimmy picked up his hammer from Mark's house. You remember saying that?
Yeah, when we were there the first time, he found it in a toolbox.
And that's when you said he made the crude joke about it's Teresa's destiny. Do you recall that?
Yes,
Do you recall what he did after he picked up that hammer the first time? Did he take it with him?
I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. When you went to Mr. Sievers' house, the Sievers' house the first time,
Yes,
did you bring a backpack?
no,
Okay. So if you didn't bring a backpack, it's fair to say that you wouldn't have left with a backpack.
yes,
And if you didn't leave with a backpack, you would have obviously seen something like a hammer in Jimmy's hand,
which
correct?
is why I said I don't know. I don't know what he did with it.
Okay. But he didn't take it with him.
I wouldn't think so. I don't know that for sure.
And again, at that statement, February 19th, you said that you struck Teresa from behind. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And again, in this statement, you said you struck her 3 times at most.
yes,
Recall that?
yes,
You said, and then you said Jimmy was striking Teresa with 2-handed blows. Do you recall saying that?
I said, yeah, both hands, sometimes two at the same time, yes.
So he was grabbing the hammer, both hands, correct?
Yeah, at some points.
That's when you said Jimmy used a claw hammer.
Yes,
You talked about kicking the dog bowl,
I did, yes,
and you kicked the dog bowl as you were walking through the garage, through the laundry room, into the kitchen, correct?
Yeah, it's right before you get into the kitchen area.
And in that statement from February 19th, 2016 that you gave under oath, you said that you threw out the contents of the backpack. Do you recall saying that?
At the rest stop.
And in fact, you said you threw out the entire backpack.
I thought that it did. I didn't.
And finally, you said that you may have used a laptop to Google Mark's prepaid phone number. Do you recall saying that?
I said that I don't know what device I used.
Okay. So those were your statements, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But let's talk about this. You said Mark came up for your wedding, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, he wanted your help murdering his wife. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you also said, irrespective of murder or no murder, you were coming down anyways on that weekend, correct?
No.
You didn't say that yesterday?
I didn't say that weekend.
Okay, you said that you were coming down on the weekend of the 27th and the 28th to do computer work on the Sievers, correct?
I planned to come down on a weekend sometime near then.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If you were going to come down on a weekend to do computer work, how would you have to get into the office?
With Mark, like every other time I've been there.
Okay, but if he wasn't there, you would have had to have a code to get in, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
So, I want to kind of go over what happened, all right? So, you enlisted Jimmy's help, is that correct?
Yes.
You started out in Missouri. You drove 1,100 miles down to Lee County, Florida, correct?
I'm not sure of the mileage, but that sounds about right.
Okay. During that trip, is it fair to say you had a lot of time to discuss these things, correct?
You could have, yes.
Okay. So, how much of that time coming down here did you and Mr. Rogers use to meticulously plan out this murder?
That was all done prior to the trip,
Okay. Like what?
like relaying everything that Mark told me.
Okay. So, when you said all the planning was done prior to the trip, we arranged the method of the murder, correct?
The method is
How you were going to kill her?
specifically with what weapon? No.
Yeah.
No.
You said you wanted to make it look like a burglary, correct?
That was what Mark said.
Okay, so if you're going to make it look like a burglary, you're going to take things from the home, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you're going to take things from the home, you want to park close to the home so you don't have to take a bunch of things very far away, is that correct?
Jimmy's idea to get paid faster than 3 months was to take something valuable from the house.
You parked in an apartment complex about a quarter mile away, correct?
No. It wouldn't have been a quarter mile. No, I don't think it was near a quarter mile, but
Okay, but you had to walk down a couple streets to get to the home, correct?
I walked through some grass and across the street.
Okay. But you didn't park in their driveway.
No.
You said you got there nice and early, 6 a.m. on the 28th, is that correct?
Yes.
So at that time, you said you scoped out the residence, right?
Yes.
You had ample opportunity to look for things of value and take those things of value, is that correct?
Yeah, but okay.
Right.
Yes, but I
Okay.
could have.
Things like cash that may have been laying around, correct? Electronics, correct?
Yes, opportunity, yes.
right? There was an opportunity to take guns. There were guns in the house, right?
I would imagine, yeah. There's always been guns in his house.
So, what then, when you first arrived, did you and Jimmy do to make this look like it was going to be a burglary?
Nothing, it was to scout it out, it wasn't to actually do anything.
Okay. What was taken to make sure that Jimmy got paid?
Nothing that I know of. Again, the agreement was 3 months or however long it took him to get the life insurance.
Okay. So, you get there at 6, you spend some time there, you leave, is that correct?
Yeah, we were there about 5 minutes.
Okay. And said you went to Walmart, you bought some souvenirs, did some shopping, correct?
Yeah, we went to Walmart.
Okay. In fact, you used to install security in Walmart, is that correct?
I've worked on their cameras. I'm not sure exactly what you would call that, but
So you're familiar with Walmart security procedures?
yes,
You're aware that if you go into a Walmart, you're going to be videotaped, is that correct?
yes.
That never crossed your mind that, hey, if we're gonna go commit a murder, maybe we shouldn't be subjecting ourselves to being videotaped, correct?
You said, did it cross my mind? Yes, it did.
Likewise, you went to various gas stations, correct? You went inside, you didn't just pay at the pump?
I think some of them you couldn't, but we
And-
used the restroom, so yeah, sometimes we went in.
And I believe you said that you were a little concerned that Jimmy brought a cell phone with him, correct?
I was more than a little concerned, but
He
yes.
was not supposed to bring a cell phone with him.
Right, I told him not to.
However, once he did, he sent texts, he made calls, correct?
Yeah,
When you went to Walmart, you bought stuff for the beach, correct?
yes, Jimmy did.
Okay, and you bought some
No, I
other
guess,
odd things.
yeah.
You bought a little tool set to help you work on computers or cars.
Yeah, I didn't remember buying that, but it would have been an impulse buy.
Okay. So, I guess I'm having some problems understanding how the final plan came together, because we've heard a little bit that this was supposed to look like a murder during a burglary, and some other testimony that this was going to be something that was going to look like an accident, correct?
I said that I,
Objection. Counsel didn't ask a question.
Sustained.
Was this something that was supposed to look like an accident, or something that was supposed to look like a burglary?
I would have liked for it to look like an accident. It wasn't planned that way.
Okay. So, to make it look like an accident, you both put on your jumpsuits, correct?
Yes,
You taped up the gloves, you taped up the ankles, is that correct?
not to make it look like an accident, but yes, we did.
You wanted to conceal your presence.
Yes,
And so, you were admiring Mr. Sievers' motorcycle in the garage with the lights off.
yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
It was dark.
Well, there was light, but we had the door open, so the side door, so there was some light in there.
You had the side door open?
Yes,
So the side door was open then when Ms. Sievers came home?
yes.
Okay. Did she notice, hey, the side door of my garage is open? That,
Didn't look like it.
no, just didn't register? She didn't, stop and close the door?
It was on the other side of the garage, on the other side of another car. So.
So she walks in, you follow behind her. Is that correct? And at this point, it's your plan, you want to put her in what's called the rear naked choke, correct?
That was my intentions.
Okay. And you're right-handed or left-handed?
Right.
Okay. So rear naked choke. Dominant hand goes around the neck, the bicep and the forearm contact each side of the neck, correct?
Yes.
Other hand comes, locks in, and goes behind the back of the head. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is going to cause someone to pass out 4 or 5 seconds, correct?
Yeah, generally.
Okay. And so before you could apply the rear naked choke, you grabbed the hammer.
Yes.
Right hand or left hand?
Right.
Okay. So your plan then was with a hammer to go across her body like this. Is that your plan?
No.
What was your plan?
Well, the hammer I just grabbed, I guess as a backup maybe. I wouldn't have used the hammer. It wouldn't have been in my hand had I actually put her in the hold.
Well, you couldn't have because you can't perform the rear naked choke while you're holding an object.
Which is why I said I wouldn't have.
And you would have known this through your years of experience as an amateur fighter, correct?
Yes.
So you walk in, you kick the dog bowl. The dog bowl goes forward, correct?
Yeah, I wasn't really looking where it went, but it had to have went forward
It
into
had
the
to
kitchen.
have gone forward.
Yes.
Water goes everywhere. Dr. Sievers is alerted.
Yes.
You hit her.
Yeah, when the noise happened, she started to turn towards me. So yes, I did. I swung at her. I hit her.
So with your right hand, you said you hit her, which side of the head?
Well, she was turning towards me, towards her right. Just turned that way. So it would have been, I guess,
It would have
back.
been on her right side of her head, correct?
Yeah, but it would have been more in the top rear. But I don't know what.
And so you hit her a couple times, and then Jimmy came in, and I believe your words were, he was blasting her. Do you recall saying that?
Yeah.
His hammer was very bloody when he finished up, wasn't it?
I would imagine. I didn't see it.
And in fact, he turned it around and he used the claw. He sunk the claw in, didn't he?
That's what he told me.
I mean, that's pretty gruesome. That's pretty bloody, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. So at that point, it's time to get out of here, right? You both go out the side door.
Yes.
Okay. You drop your hammer, is that correct?
I dropped it once he started hitting her. Yes.
Okay. And you go and you immediately start undressing, is that correct?
Well, I tossed the clothes or whatever it was I grabbed a handful of out of the bag on the way out. But
Okay. And so you left the bag outside, right? You left the bag outside, you didn't bring the backpack inside.
I can't be sure of that if it wasn't outside the door, it was right inside of it. But
right
yeah,
inside.
it was at the back. Yes.
Okay. So it was right inside or right outside. So either you or Jimmy would have had to have collected the bag and put your clothes in there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Who put whose clothes in the bag first?
I got undressed first, so mine Mine would have went in first.
Okay. And when you put your clothes in, your clothes included a hat, is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm not sure the hat went straight into the bag. I may have kept it on
You
until
may
I
have
got
kept it
back.
on?
Yeah.
Okay. The gloves went in,
Yes.
and the jumpsuit, is that correct?
Yes.
When you took the jumpsuits off, did you leave the duct tape still on them, or did you unravel the duct tape?
Probably some of both.
Okay.
I think all the duct tape came off, but some of it was tore, some of it was unwrapped.
And did you see Jimmy take his jumpsuit off?
Yeah, we were standing next to each other.
Okay. When Jimmy came outside, he was still in his jumpsuit, is that correct?
Yes.
What did he have with him? What else?
I wasn't paying any attention, really. I mean, I was getting undressed, so.
Okay. Would you have noticed if he had any valuables from inside the house?
Not if they were in his pocket. I mean, again, this conversation with him was about valuable gold, silver coins. It wouldn't have been something that I would have noticed.
Well, let's back up. These coveralls, they didn't have pockets in the coveralls, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay, they were just kind of like a jumpsuit.
Yeah,
Okay, so
we had our regular clothes on under it.
you had your regular clothes on underneath. So in order to put something in his pocket, he would have had to have unzipped with a zipper in the front of the back.
In the front.
Okay, so he would have had to unzip and then put something in his pocket. Is that correct?
We're guessing. I said I don't know.
Okay. But you certainly do not recall any hammer still in his hand when he came outside.
No.
And you don't recall him ever putting a hammer in that backpack.
No, I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that on the way back, you and Jimmy stopped at a rest stop or a gas station to dispose of jumpsuits. Is that correct?
It was a rest stop, yes.
Okay. And you said you dumped the contents of the backpack onto the ground. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jimmy did.
Jimmy did. Okay. So you could clearly then see what contents of the backpack were on the ground, correct?
If I would have been standing there, yes. Had already started pulling stuff out of the car. One of the other reasons for stopping there was also to clean the car
You
out.
wanted to clean the car.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, where exactly did this happen? Did Jimmy empty the jumpsuit right next to the car?
I think it was right in the back.
Okay.
Right behind the car, I believe.
And where did you park? Was this at a gas station? Was it a pump?
It was a big rest stop with the truck, the truck area. So we pulled to the side where the trucks were at. It was late at night. There was nobody there.
Okay, so at a rest stop, we got where the regular commuter traffic is, the sedans and
The cars go to the left,
and then we
trucks
get
go to the
the
right.
semi-tractor trailers.
Yes.
And so you went there, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were cleaning out the car.
Yes.
What'd you do to clean out the car?
Picked up all the trash out of it. Whatever, water bottles, soda bottles, chip bags, whatever we had ate.
And you said at that point, Jimmy just emptied it on the ground.
Well, yeah, everything was out of the bag. I shouldn't say dumped it out. The things were emptied out of the bag because I threw my suit away, so it wasn't still in the bag. So, and I picked that up off the ground. So,
Did you look in the bag on the way to Florida?
Jimmy showed me that he brought the 2 jumpsuits. I didn't go through the bag, no.
And can you tell me again how you knew that you threw out the jumpsuit that you used?
Well, I knew what order they went in the bag, and I guess so.
Okay. Did you get any blood on you?
I didn't see any.
Did you know if there was any blood on your gloves or on your jumpsuit?
I never saw any. The jumpsuits were dark colored, so
Okay. Could you tell if there was blood on Jimmy's jumpsuit?
I couldn't. I did.
So, whereabouts was this restaurant? Was it in Florida?
It would have been, and I'm not very familiar with the area, so I can't tell you where it was at, but it would have been the second rest stop north of Lee County,
Okay.
unless the first one is still in Lee County. I'm not, but it would have been the second rest stop we came to once we got on the highway.
Okay. So, did you and Jimmy, on the way back, did you two compare notes?
No,
Did you ever ask Jimmy, how many times did you strike Dr. Sievers with a hammer?
no, I saw that it was a lot. I didn't ask him.
Were you keeping count?
No,
Do you have any way of knowing, let me rephrase. At that time, would you have had any way of knowing how many times Dr. Sievers was struck with a hammer?
not a specific number.
So, you go back to Missouri, is that correct?
Yes,
And police show up and they start asking you questions, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Well, there was a lot that happened in between there, so, but yes,
Okay. This makes you start to worry, is that correct?
yes, that's fair to say.
Because you told the police, I never left Missouri, correct?
Yes,
So you needed a way to corroborate the fact that you never left Missouri, correct?
well, I don't know that I needed a way to corroborate it, but yes,
Certainly would have been helpful, right?
yes, which is why I got the neighbors' statements.
You got 4 different neighbors, all to sign affidavits establishing that you were in Missouri.
Yes,
Okay. Did you ask your neighbors to lie for you?
no,
How did you get your neighbors then to sign these false affidavits?
everything that was in those affidavits was true except for the 24-hour time discrepancy.
Okay.
And this was weeks after it happened, so
So-
I suggested that week and was the time, and
So basically what you did is you picked a set of events that was kind of memorable, specifically about working on a little mini truck, correct?
yes,
And then you just suggested to your neighbors that it was on days that it really wasn't, is that correct?
yeah, it was the day before.
Okay, so basically, would you say that you manipulated 4 of your neighbors into providing false testimony?
Yes,
And you did this because at the time, you thought it was going to benefit you, correct?
I was protecting me, Mark, and Jimmy.
By manipulating your neighbors into signing these 4 false affidavits, you believed that you were reducing the chance that you would be punished, correct?
All 3 of us, yes.
What did you and Jimmy talk about on the way back up to Missouri?
Objection and relevance.
Is this Abstain.
Did you and Jimmy, on the way back to Missouri, already start planning about how you would avoid detection?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Did you discuss what had happened in Florida so you guys got your story straight?
Not that I remember.
Have both sides approach for a moment.
Ready? We're going to go ahead and take a small break, let everyone use the restroom, stretch your legs. Please, again, do not talk about the case among yourselves with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved. We'll be with you shortly. Please be seated. 5 minutes or so.